the more you earn, you sit at the table, the less time you're going to have because you become an integral part of the company transformation as opposed to the person that is doing marketing.
I had the privilege of talking to Antonio Lucio, Chief Marketing and Corporate Affairs Officer at HP, back in the Marketing Forum Connect in New York last year. And today I'm so grateful to him for giving us his time because HP is going through a CEO change. Never that easy, but welcome, Antonio.
Thank you, David. A pleasure spending the time with you today. Like you said, we had a great time in New York, and I'm glad that we have the opportunity to continue that conversation.
Good. And I think what we wanted to talk about is, it strikes me as I watch leaders in marketing or leaders all around the place, that this is a kind of tense time for people. And those that appear to be winning are the ones that are cool, calm, and thriving through empathetic leadership. I mean, do you think that's right? And I know that's dear to your heart. So can we hear you on that?
David, like you, I've been in this wonderful field of ours for a long time, and honestly, I have never been in a situation where we are collectively experiencing dramatic shifts at 4 different levels. So we had, since the beginning of the year, tectonic shift in geopolitics. That has had a direct impact on macroeconomic. All that while we're going through technological disruption through Gen AI. And then on top of that, every single company that I am aware of, and you spend more time talking to them than that I do, is going through its own internal transformation, trying to absorb the 3 dimensions of change that I just mentioned. So that creates a level of uncertainty, a level of high change, and most people, as human beings, we, even as marketers, we like to say that we thrive on change, but at the end of the day, change is very, 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 very hard. And now most of us are going through an intensity of change that I personally had not experienced before. Why? Because you have the 3 levels of distinct change at the same time. Before, yes, there were wars, so that's geopolitical. There were some macroeconomics. There were some technological. We all went through digital, mobile, social media, virtual reality. But the combination of all of them together is rather new territory for all of us.
And one of the things we touched on, but we didn't really have time to talk about, is indeed the impact of AI. Because when we do our survey of our members, the thing that's on the rise exponentially is people's interest, fascination with AI, tempered with a little bit of fear. How are you seeing that, and how are you using it at HP? And in the more macro sense, can I ask you to talk about AI, Antonio?
Like every single company and CMO that I know, we have all gone through the different levels of AI acceptance, from a level of incredible excitement where everybody and their mother went for pilots. We had, I think I mentioned this to you, we had more pilots than the Royal Air Force going on at the same time. By the way, most of them small, most of them did not have scale as a mindset. We went through that. We went through exhaustion on that particular piece. As I was going to start, the one thing that as a leadership team we came to terms with is we are a global company. We have global scale. The whole experimenting with little startups in San Francisco is not going to help us. So what we did was, let's go where the areas where we are going to have the most significant impact. Always with the customer in mind, which I think is an important consideration. AI is not an end in itself, and many people are thinking about it as an end in itself. I have a productivity target, and I'm going to hit it. AI is a means to an end, is hopefully a better way to servicing your customer. If you're not doing that, you cannot cut your way into glory, as a boss of mine used to say. So what that meant for us are three areas. Number one, because of the business in which we are in, we produce a lot of NPI assets. Most of them, not now, for a long time ago, are computer generated stuff. We used to have multiple agencies around the world because every client will have a reiteration and for that. So all of a sudden, the best way to actually have that NPI asset on time so that our customers can sell, that was one area where AI is helping us. So we went from 0 to 30. This year will be at the 60% level of NPI assets optimized, not created, but optimized by AI. The second one is media. And as we move into identity-based targeting across platform, as you know, identity-based, you have them within the firewalls. Now we have the opportunity with some of the big media agencies around the world to actually do identity-based targeting and go through. In our particular case, our most important target is the IT decision maker, to be able to take content to that particular individual through the journey across the world, across the multiple opportunities for engagement. AI is helping us on that as well. And again, is how can we get our messages in a more effective way to that particular customer? So that, and then the third area is the one that everyone likes to talk about, which is everything that has to do with back office automation. In our particular case, and I think most companies, whether they have the data or not, that they intuitively will tell you 50% of the time of the about 1,300 marketers that we have around the world are spent on non-revenue producing tasks. So the ability to automate all the record keeping and optimization of processes and solutions and all that is the third area in which we're working. The first two are driven by my team. The third area, everything that is back office, we are responsible for the marketing and communications area of it, but we're doing it together with the Chief Transformation Office, which from a CMO standpoint, the stuff that you and I care about, that has become, in addition to the CFO and the CEO, in the past, the Chief Transformation Officer has become a key and very important relationship for the CMO. Any of the stuff that I'm talking to you about that will have a significant impact in the way that we serve our customers and we do marketing around the world has a direct impact on technology. Therefore, that relationship needs to be secure.
Yeah, so Antonio, as we go through this remarkable time of change, and especially AI, what are your personal leadership principles?
David, this is, as I said, rather intense time, and I divide, let's call it, my personal leadership principles into three. First, you start with the body. You have to take care of yourself. If we all have more so now than in the past, we have incredibly demanding life. We're talking about all the changes that we're going through. We're talking about the fact that we all want to be great partners, great parents, great community participants, like the World Federation of Advertisers. We want to be great at everything, and the amount of time and intensity that all the things that we're talking about, which sound very simple as bullet points, well, there's geopolitical, there's macroeconomic, there's that, all this type of stuff, it takes a lot of time and a lot of emotional energy. And because of what we spoke earlier, all this creates a level of uncertainty on people, and you are a leader. So the only way that you're going to be your best self for all the different elements of your life as a business leader, as a father, as a partner, as a community, it starts by taking care of yourself. If you are not doing that first, nothing is going to work around you. And by the way, you and I had a brief conversation. I made that mistake. I paid dearly for that. So when I'm talking about this, I'm talking with cause. The fundamental mental shift that we need to make, at least that I had to make, was I didn't have time because I was busy in all the other elements of my life. And the paradigm that I had to shift was, don't do it for yourself, because we always put ourselves last, or at least I used to put myself last. The moment that you say, I'm going to take care of myself for others, and the most generous thing that I can do for the people that I love and the people that I care for and the responsibilities that I have is to start with me first, has never been more true than now. I'll give you an example. We just went through an unexpected CEO transition. Our CEO from HP, after 30-something years, moved to PayPal. He had been a core, one of those pillars that define what cultures is in a company. So, by the way, in addition to that, David, a very close friend. One of the reasons why I returned to HP. So this was hard for the company. This was hard for the team, and honestly, it was hard for me personally as well. And as these changes are going, and for about 2 weeks, I was one of the few people that only knew, because we had to work on the multi-stakeholder communication process, because, stock price, employees, customers, investors all need to be taken care of the right way, or, things can become very complicated. So I was going through all that stuff. One of my good friends, a Brit, you guys tend to be fantastic about these things when you allow yourself to be. Antonio, I know you. Be careful that you don't become the wailing wall. You are not made out of stone, and you're not God. So the whole notion that because you can, when things are going this way and people don't know whether they're going to keep, you can become a wailing wall. So the best and most important thing is to make sure that you're taking care of yourself, make sure that you understand the role that you're going to play, and then begin with that. So that's kind of, let's say body. On the mind thing, David, like you, I like to read, and again, I studied history in my student days. I never thought I did it for, I don't know, intellectual stimulation. I never knew that the lessons that I learned as a student became almost critical as I became a global marketer. At this stage, this thing is happening, the world and by the way, the change in CEO was happening. By the way, it's just 2 weeks ago. There was two thoughts. One was a personal take on Machiavelli, which one day we'll have a conversation about that. It's a really bad rap. Most people have not read it or have not read it recently. The questions that he asked princes or us about ourselves are fundamental questions. Whether you like his answer or not is separate. The questions are critical. You want to be loved or you want to be feared? For example, one of the things that I remember on that particular handbook, and again, this is my paraphrasing, look at life as it is as opposed to life as you want it to be. And that's like super, 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 super important in these times. And then I add on top of that, Marcus Aurelius. I'm a big fan of the Stoics. I have meditations in my night table. The thought that world is change and life is what your thoughts make of it. So the whole notion that I have to be not only physically ready for this, but I also need to have my mind in the right stage so that it is what it is, guys. But our CEO left. We didn't want him to. He left. AI is here to stay, and we're transforming this area and this. This is what it is. And let me explain why this. There are the things that we know are going to be different, and there are the things that we don't know that could get better. And I can tell you, given my history, which is very a parallel to yours in a way, when things like this are happening in the world, you only miss the stuff that you knew. You never know the things that are actually going to get better. You never do that. And then over time, you went like, oh, wow, that thing that we had at that moment needed change. Now they have. So that the whole notion of keeping the mind in the right place, super, super important. And then the third element in mind is, in situations like what we're facing, the whole notion of purpose becomes very clear, which is you do what you have to do, what is in front of you, because that's your role. Today, that's your role. And by putting your attention of trying to do what you're there to do the best possible way, and being fully aware of the size of the shadow that you cast, the fact that you're being watched, that your reactions matter, then it becomes the right model for me. And then at the end of the day, it's about actions. You got to keep doing. You got to keep doing. You got to keep doing to the extent that you're able to focus your team on the actions that are at hand, and begin to convince that to the extent that we act today, we have an impact on the things that as they can be tomorrow, and that the best safety that you can have against the uncertainty and self-fulfilling prophecies is to actually do what you have to do today. So that's kind of where I've been working with myself throughout all this. I think like everybody else, since the beginning of the year, where everything began to shift, I was working on two parallel levels, which is the stuff that I need to work and the stuff that I need to work on me to be able to do what I need to do. Is probably the most significant work that I have done over the last 12 months. And by the way, David, you know these things take time. And when people sometimes, Antonio, you're not very active with the community and with the external event. Listen, there's nothing that I personally like more than have intellectually stimulating conversation with people like yourself. The truth of the matter is, when you're going through this level of change and when you're driving some of it yourself, earning a seat at the table that everybody talks about it as a data point takes a lot of time. The more you earn your seat at the table, the less time you're going to have, because you become an integral part of the company transformation as opposed to the person that is doing marketing. So the whole notion that I am devoting most of my time to making sure that I am anchored the right way, and that I'm doing the work that I need to do so that I can help my team, the company, the community to get to where they are. That's kind of we only have 24 hours a day. We only have one life. We have to choose how we do it. Even where we are, I made the choice of spending more time with my teams and customers than with the community, but that's at a cost to me, because I get nourished from conversations like this one.
Yeah, because I don't think we've ever had Machiavelli referenced in one of these podcasts, nor indeed Marcus Aurelius. But add to that, the Socratic stuff and the Stoics. I mean, that we are responsible for the feelings that we have in here when things happen around us. And I think one of the things we talked about in New York is you learn that often the hard way, and you have to work at it, and you have to constantly work at it. But I suppose what's intriguing having this conversation in this set of circumstances for you. There's no playbook, whatever you have in the drawer that says the CEO leaves, what do we do? That's not the same as somebody who's been there for 30 years, is your friend, who's worked with, and who's probably a shock to you when he did. It's probably a shock to the system. So how have you managed to coach your team through that? And how do you keep them focused on the tasks?
Because I've done a lot of work on myself. I know how my mind works. One of our assets as marketers is that we can do really effective scenario play. If this happens, this could happen. If this happens, that's an asset that's going. When it comes to personal and emotional stuff, that assets can become really almost self-punishing. Let me think. If he goes, what's going to happen? Who's going to come next? And then, by the way, it's an interim CEO. And what happens? That's going to be mean. We're going to have 3 transitions. How are we going to react? What's going to happen? Is the new CEO want to keep me in the job? We're trying to predict the future. And if there's something that we all know, as we have seen only over the last 12 months, is that some things, there are trends that play out and there are trends that fundamentally never do. And that it is almost, by now I know this, and again, I learned this the hard way, it's not a useful exercise. So I'll tell you, I get the call from the chairman of the board on a Sunday afternoon. I get the message, and I'm with my wife, Ashley, and I go like, the chairman of the board is calling me. I mean, we have been board buddies. He's a great guy. He's been a CEO of Levi's, a marketer. Now he's teaching at Harvard marketing. So I like this guy, but he doesn't call on a Sunday afternoon. Then he tells me, then you know the process. You know what 20 minutes later, the new board appointed CEO, which is a board member, calls me, and then everybody begins to ask me that, how do you feel? Antonio, how do you feel? And I answered honestly, as honest as I could have been at the time. And I said, because I went immediately into what needs to be done mode, because they told me only 4 people in the company are going to know this. So for the next 2 weeks, you're going to have to live at 2 levels of reality because of the sensitive nature of the situation. I went immediately to the best thing that I can do for Enrique, my boss, the best thing I can do for the company, and honestly, the best thing that I can do for me right now is to focus on what I have to do over this 2 weeks, puts the feelings a little bit on a drawer, because this has to be done the right way. Too much is at stake. I focus on the work that I have in front of me, and one day leads to the other, leads to the other, leads to the other, leads to the other, leads to the other. And we were able to do it very, 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 very well. And now we are in a different moment. Now the new interim CEO is there. So, Antonio, how do you feel? And I said, I miss my friend. There's absolutely no question about the fact that I miss my friend. And I said, we still have to deliver plan. We have confirmed the strategy. We have confirmed the guidance. If we have a new CEO, it is our role to maintain our team's focus on what is at stake. Do I believe in the vision? I believe in the vision. Do you believe in the strategy? I believe in the strategy. I was part of that. All that is a given. I miss my friend, and that will forever be the case. But that's how I've been managing, and also understanding that when that people are going to ask me, and I'm going to say, I miss Enrique. I do dearly. He's my friend. And I said, at the same time, we have a task that we all agreed to do. I believe in that. That's the reason that I'm here. And we're going to focus on this for the time being. And then over time, things will evolve. Is the new guy great? I love the new. Okay, we will continue in the journey. Things changes, a new CEO. we'll take it as they come, because honestly, there's no energy is limited. Your thoughts can be guided, and I am committed to making sure that I am focused on what I can do, which is what you have in front of you. And that's the best thing that I can do for myself, and more importantly, at this stage, the best thing that I can do for my team.
Yeah, and I think this notion of the current reality, where I must insert whether you like it or not, is what we all have to work with in our day job. And when you have clarity of the task you need to do, that's pretty helpful. I mean, because this is such a good conversation, but can I bring it into the world of marketing for a minute? Because I think that what you're giving us here is a masterclass of how to lead yourself, how to get people focused on the task. And in the current reality of marketing, I think outside of the HP story, this is tough. We're in all sorts of transitional things. So for a marketeer, what's your coaching? What's your advice? Think of the audience we've got out there. What can they learn from you, Antonio?
The most important thing that we need to own is that the times that we're living requires that marketing, or the CMOs, or the marketers, begin to play a more direct business transformation role than what they were doing. If you're not involved in the overall business transformation of the company, you are going to not only lose the seat at the business table, but over time you can become a bit irrelevant. There are three things that we have that give us a really important role in the business table, but we have to own that. First, we have a view of the business that very few executives in the C-suite have. For example, we have 3 operating business units. They have 3 business leaders. We have like most global companies, you have the regions on the other side. The truth of the matter is that I have a view through the marketing budget, both the ones that I control and the other pieces of the marketing budget that are owned by other pieces of the business, as the aggregator of all of it, which was one of the first things that I did coming back into the job. I have a view that most people don't. So the presidents of each one of those divisions only see the budgets within their divisions. The head of regions only see the budgets through the region. The vantage point that my team and I have is like, okay, we can and we should shift priorities between each one of the business units and the regions. That vantage point, very few people in the company have with the level of details that we do. That gives you a very, if you own it, it gives you a very strong point of view. Let's call it the view of the aggregator. The second one is the voice of the customer. And the voice of the customer is not that we have the data and it's right here. And no, the voice of the customer is like, I have over the last 18 months spent more time, because again, IT decision makers are our customers. You don't deal with them with AI. You don't deal with the CIO of Accenture through AI. You have to meet the individual. The whole notion that you have the voice of the customer, and that as a marketer you own that, gives you a very important voice in the transformation. And then the third piece is this new evolution of the world will require what we've been talking about for multiple years, a total integration of multi-stakeholder communication. Everybody talks about it end-to-end. No. Here you have, because the world is moving, our world, which is commercial first as opposed to consumer first, it's moving into the first view of the world it's no longer search, is an LLM model. When you're trying to affect LLM models, thought leadership, owned and earned, are more important than paid, and account-based marketing becomes the rules of engagement. Trust is more important than brand equity. Trust you either have or don't have. Brand equity is relative to competition. So that means that marketing, communications, and even government affairs, because of everything that we started in this conversation, need to be joined at the hip so that everything that you do, from a speech of the CEO that is not a measure of corporate trust, but rather that piece of content will become an MGO, qualified marketing generated opportunity. The shift to owned and earned versus paid and everything else, that gives those three tiers the vantage point that we have from a budget standpoint, the voice of the customer, and our ability to integrate storytelling to build trust as opposed to just brand equity, gives the marketing individual a rather unique role to play. The question is, does the CMO or do the marketing heads are willing to own that, or are they more comfortable playing their traditional boxes? Everything that I have seen, David, there's a direct correlation between those CMOs that are able to own those and their ranking and sit at the table, and those that don't.
Yeah, and this is you're to that theme where marketing often whinges about we're not taking seriously. My answer to that has always been, no, maybe you're not good enough at it. Anyway, just to thank you enormously for the most precious gift you can give all of us, which is your time, Antonio. And I'm conscious that we could talk here for hours, but I want to keep it short because that was a masterclass in how to lead through change, a masterclass in what marketeers should focus on. And the WFA listeners and I are really grateful for any masterclass we can get. We need all the help we can get in times like this, Antonio.
Anytime, David. Honestly, I don't need new friends. You have a very interesting point of view, a great, enormous amount of experience. I would love to have the opportunity to spend more time with you talking about this and life in general. And so I'm deeply grateful for the opportunity.
Hey, Antonio, well, we will. I do not doubt that. I'll take you up on it. But it's fantastic. Thank you so much.
All the best, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Well, that was an incredible conversation. And as I've said, grateful to Antonio for taking the time because of the change that HP are going through. Not just a CEO moving on, but a dear friend moving on. But as you've all seen, a masterclass in how to cope with that, a masterclass in how to lead empathetically, and indeed an absolute masterclass for all us marketeers. Looking forward to the next episode of Better Marketing.